Can't believe we're saying it, but it's game number 34 of the MLS regular season coming up Saturday night at Red Bull Arena, and it is the Columbus Crew who come into town. Chris, appreciate you coming on, giving us a couple minutes. These teams, no surprises when they play. The rivalry still exists, going all the way back to '96. They played some great games. This one is unique, though, to me in a lot of ways because depending on where Red Bull finishes, Columbus has already locked themselves into the two spot. This might be the first of four potential games that these teams will play. Decision day on Saturday, and then a best of three if it went the distance. From a lot of ways, what you would think it's as much mental as it is physical, because how much do you want to show a team that you might see over the course of the next three? Or there's another side of it, and I'm curious to your take. We know each other so well, it doesn't really matter. Come Saturday, decision day, everyone's going to play to get 3 points.
Yeah, Doc, thanks for having me. I think this is a real nice matchup of two teams that have principles in their style of play that they stick with. They haven't abandoned them. They don't abandon them given the circumstances of any match. And so it'll be a matter of who, really forces themselves the most successfully on the opponent. Red Bulls have always caused problems. That high press can be a problem. For Columbus, however, building out of the back under that kind of pressure is something that has been, a part of the DNA since Wilfried Nancy arrived. So it'll be really interesting to see how the two styles match up.
Columbus, all during the course of the year, with so much attention on Miami number one and maybe the two LA teams, 2 and 3, as good as Columbus has been, and they've been, for my money, as good as anybody, despite what records and points would say. They had an extremely crowded schedule at the beginning part of the season. I think they're going to be a team to beat come playoff time. Is there any sense when you talk to the Crew at this point of the regular season, or have we moved past that? Like, hey, how come people don't talk about us as much as maybe the two LA teams or Miami? Because Columbus, point wise, might finish second in the entire league in points after Saturday.
I don't think there's a sense about that, at least within the Crew bubble. And the Crew bubble is most of Ohio, save for maybe down south where Cincinnati exists. And the reason why I say that is because Columbus has enjoyed tremendous success with the supporters filling the building each and every game night. We just had our 34th consecutive MLS sellout. So I think folks locally know what this team is all about. I think from an international perspective, there's probably a lot of interest in a few of the players that you're seeing week in and week out. And then beyond that, Wilfried Nancy is keen to mention on occasion during his press conferences how he gets calls from his colleagues around the world asking questions about, Cucho Hernandez and how they develop a goalkeeper who can play with his feet, and how do you work that diamond system that you've got, all those types of questions. And then of course the obvious one, what was it like to coach against Messi? So I think the world understands it. I think in terms of Major League Soccer, we are stuck in the middle. We're kind of like the Indiana Pacers when the Chicago Bulls had their run late with Michael Jordan. No one was talking about how good Reggie Miller and the Pacers were back then. It was all about Jordan and his majesty in the Windy City. We get stuck in the middle, but we're okay with that. We're very comfortable with the support and the fact that the communities around Columbus understand just how strong this team is. And I think what the league takes notice of is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, this team does not veer too far away from its core principles when the chips go down, and as a result, is able to fight back in games where they go down early.
And I think, Chris, that is very evident. The thing that sticks out, it'll be the last day of the regular season, Columbus on the road. So they played 16 games away from home this season. They have results in 13 of 16. They're one of the best teams in Major League Soccer away from their home field. 8 wins, 5 draws, however the game goes on Saturday at Red Bull Arena. And I think it's because of the way they play. It doesn't necessarily matter whether they're at home or they're on the road. They are who they are, and their principles and the way that Wilfried Nancy has coached this team the last couple of years, it just seems to work perfectly with the team that they have on the roster.
Doc, you bring up a really good point. Last year, I was talking to Taylor Twellman about Pat Noonan in Cincinnati, and they were getting the job done on the road. And I said, Taylor, what do you think of Pat and what they've been able to accomplish on the road in this run to the Supporter Shield? And he said, Pat Noonan does not deviate when he walks into a different stadium. He wants everything to be the same, no matter what the stadium looks like. Um, Comparable to that, what we hear from the players on the Crew side this year and from Wilfried Nancy is really interesting. They actually feel a little more pressure to win at home. And the reason why is because they feel and value the support from the fans who show up every week. Wilfried Nancy has something of a working man's mentality when he talks about supporters at times. And I mean this in a complimentary fashion. He often says, you know, these folks can take the money that they spend on tickets and they could go out to dinner. They could make it a movie night for the family, or they could simply pay the travel soccer league fees that they need to pay each and every fall and spring. Instead, they choose to come here. And he puts that pressure on the players and helps them understand that not everyone lives the lifestyle that some of these pro players live. And as a result, when they show up in the seats, we have to give them what they've come for. And that's a night of entertainment, which often leads to a night of success and a night of victory for the supporters. So the pressure at home to win is there. I think when they take that mentality on the road, it doesn't bother them. Patrick Schulte's a top level goalkeeper in this league with 11 shutouts. He has talked about how he thrives on the trash talk from the fans. Now, I'm not inviting Red Bull fans to turn up the volume on the weekend, Doc, but he does talk about that, and he's one of those young players who maybe even hears it and doesn't filter it out. Guys like Darlington Nagbe, Cucho Hernandez, I think they filter all that stuff out, and their focus is solely on what's going on the field.
Chris, finish with this one if you can. The question, I guess, for Columbus, and I think we saw it a little bit last week, which would lead me to believe it's not going to happen this week. There was some roster rotation for the Crew against New England. Didn't matter. They won the game 4-0. If you're Wilfried Nancy, I would think you go into this game against Red Bull on the road and say, we're playing our guys. We're looking for 3 points. Even though we're in the second seed locked in, maybe the second half things change a little bit, but I would expect a full first choice 11 come Saturday.
Yeah, I think your hunch is exactly on target. We played a midweek game against Philadelphia, the third time we met them all season. And I was expecting a very heavy rotation, but we had guys that had finished out the weekend who were showing up Wednesday night and playing 60, 70, 80 minutes. I don't see there's going to be much of a departure for this weekend. We are missing, or we're missing anyway, headed into the week, Steven Moreira and Sean Zawatsky on injury. Reserve goalkeeper Evan Bush still coming back from that midsummer surgery. So those are three guys that probably, if they show up, limited minutes at best on the weekend. Maybe you save them for the playoffs. Everybody else, though, they're in play for the weekend.
Chris, enjoy our talks as always. I look forward to catching up with you during the postseason. Perhaps we might be able to do this a couple more times. Best of luck to you and the Crew on Saturday, and we'll catch up later.
Doc, thanks so much. Best of luck to the Red Bulls. We'll talk to you soon.